Hey there, viewers, and welcome back to the Self-Made Auto Channel. Laying underneath the 2019 F250. We've already looked at this vehicle in a previous video. We diagnosed all the CAN issues back to this connector, and more precisely back to this single wire here. I submitted the claim to his warranty company, and naturally, as all aftermarket warranties, they denied the claim, as they always do. So not a big deal there, and no big surprise. Those warranty companies will pay you to hang parts, but they won't pay you to diagnose. So, for example, like the last shop that didn't fix it, they got their $900 from the warranty company, no problem. However, the guy who really fixes the car, they stick it to the customer. So, neither here nor there. Customer needs it fixed, whether they're paying for it or not. And I mean, honestly, it's not really a defect issue here. It's more of a something happened in the past issue. So I do have our new part from Ford, and we're going to unplug this one. We're going to grab that connector from Ford. Pretty expensive too. I don't know. It was creeping up on a $200 bill. But here it is. It's right. Wire color's right, as long as your wire color's green. And oops, says that ain't right. Appears to be correct. We're only going to be doing the male half here. Yep, feels like it's going to click in. We're not going to snap it all the way. And now we have the task of replacing it. Prior to doing so, I'm going to open up this harness because we've seen evidence of this harness, you know, being damaged, like it was chowdered up. Now, I did drop the spare tire out of here. I don't have an open lift today to stick this up on. Our guy Josh is busy over there, so we're just going to do this on the ground. Very lightly just split this poly loom here. We'll take this off. We'll do a little bit of discovery. I don't believe there was any damage in the wires beyond the loom. But I think somebody has been in here, because it is curious that it's only taped until that point, right? Perhaps not. Nope, there is some damage here. Yeah, all the way up through. This wire here is chowdered up right to the copper, which isn't a big deal because we have plenty of wire. Although not all wires are going to be used. Let's open up this poly loom. The damage ends right about here. So we're just going to very carefully come through this one. We're just splitting it right on the seam that's already there. And I just want to be able to look at these wires just to be darn sure that, you know, we're not going to miss something and have a problem in the future. We don't need things turning. You can see where stuff was pinched. You know, there's evidence on the insulation. I just want to make darn sure nothing's down to copper, because that sure would be a shame to overlook something and then have it become a problem in the future. But it's really weird. I would really like to know your guys' input or thoughts on what could have happened. You know, did this get, well, certainly this one is still retained here with a harness, you know, or a clip. So I don't know, like, because the spare tire comes across here, but it's almost impossible for this to get jammed up there. So I'm not real sure. Perhaps the spare tire was out and this has just been blasted with road debris. I don't really know. But it's curious just seeing all the marks on the insulation. Almost as if it was pinched in there. But I don't see any of these broke down to the copper. So I think we're going to be okay. Yeah, it's just kind of bizarre. Of course, I don't know what this plug is. And sometimes if a plug, even if a plug's not terminated, it can cause you issues. You know, for example, if this has networking wires in it, which it looks like it does, based on the color, you know, if they, you know, let's say, for example, this was the plug that goes to the blind spot monitors at BLOS or BLIS, whatever the acronym was there, that Ford had on their wire diagram. If this were to run to that, even though it's not hooked up, and, you know, these network wires get corroded, you know, short together or short to another circuit, it's still going to take down that medium speed can, the MS can that we were looking at. So don't be fooled by just a connector that goes to nothing. They can still cause you problems, oddly enough. I'm just going to open these up. Yeah, and you can see evidence of where these wires have also been pinched. Yeah, very neat. Neato, man. But yeah, this one here is, like I say, that sucker's chowdered right up to there. So pretty cool. Don't know why. We're going to open this one up also because this harness appears to have the same type of damage. And if there's anything inside of here, I guess we could do that right now. We're going to be replacing these zip tie harnesses anyway, so let's just do this. This is the loop in the networking wires, where it just loops and goes back to itself. But we need to open this up all the way up through there so we can inspect for any damage, because I certainly don't want this coming back to my shop for something that I overlooked. I definitely don't want to be chasing a wire that's already taped inside of a harness. That would be a big pain and a lot more difficult on the visual inspection. Yeah, all these wires have certainly been pinched. You know, insulation flattened out. There might be a little piece of copper sticking out of that one. We'll have to cut and repair. Possibly this one, yeah. Or the other thing, maybe thinking, you know, if somebody's thing got stuck in a ditch, they threw a strap around it, you know, where it, you know, caught the wire. It's really all just hypothetical. We don't know. We probably never will. Looks like the damage ends here. We're going to cut that poly loom off. We'll replace it. We do want to give these a good look. You're going to want to write this one down in your book if you have a history book that you're keeping. Today is February 29th. Although this day comes once every 4 years, this will be marked as the day that Self-Made Auto breaks the internet because of wiring repairs. If I could repair a wire with a butt connector, solder, while welding, pouring concrete, doing home repair, and bending a cotter pin, well, I would. Some of the most controversial topics of all times. However, when we're doing this one, we're electing to solder and heat shrink. Now, before your keyboards catch on fire, I will let you know this is Ford's recommendation per the instructions that come with the wiring kit. Now, Ford sends your heat shrink with the adhesive, and they also send butt connectors. However, in here, if it states, Ford states that on connections using wires that are 16 gauge or smaller, they say solder and heat shrink. For wiring repair that's 14 gauge or larger, they want you to crimp and heat shrink. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but that's everything in a nutshell. This entire harness only has 2 wires that are large, that are 14 gauge. Everything else is smaller. So we're going to solder as they recommend, because we like to follow the rules. We're doing it one wire at a time. Lining up our connector, making sure we have it right. Picking the next wire in line. Trimming it off. Moving it around to where I can get to it easily. Doing a verification process because we don't want to do it twice. And then we're also staggering our joints. Now I started with the longest wire, which was the wire that was damaged up here, this gray with the orange stripe. And then, you know, just kind of inspecting each wire as we go, and then staggering the joints. And I'll show you how we do that. I'm not going to show you every single wire, because who's going to watch that? And who would want to watch that? And if that's you, you might want to question yourself. Why do I want to watch stuff like this? So I'm going to show you one, and then I'm just going to be down here in peace and quiet. Let's see, we want this one to start right about so. So we're going to trim that off, making sure once we get this done, we want to be able to tape this up and have it nice. I'm going to strip these back about 12 millimeters. Once I have our stripped back portion, I'm going to hold it up to the wire that we need to cut. I'm going to cut that at the bottom of our stripped off length. Right there. Strip off about 12 millimeters on that one. This is the important part. This is like making a brake line flare and forgetting the nut. Don't forget your heat shrink. Nothing ruins a good solder job like a piece of missing heat shrink. Slip that baby on. Everything looks good. We'll get our wires. We'll make a nice twist, have them hold hands. They're holding hands nicely. Grab your double roach clip, stick that on there as a precaution before you solder it or solder it, or pronounce CL. Verify again that your wire number and everything is correct. I'm kind of stick this up here by the hitch. It was holding itself up there. It just kind of holds our wire so there's no unnecessary pressure on it. Make sure our connection there is good. Ford recommends using a rosin core solder, which we have. We've got some good 60/40, illegal in 10 states. We're using our soldering iron, heating up the wire. Oh, she sucked in nice. Set that down. Once it cools, pull off your double roach clip. Slide this little guy up on here. Find your halfway point. Make sure you don't have any little prickers sticking up there. Find about your halfway point. Grab your low torch. I love the Ford heat shrink. The adhesive in it, or they call it hot melt, works really well. Heat that little guy up till it's shrunk down. Stick down the torch, and then we wait. Let it solidify, and then we do this process all over again. And we just go until we're done. Now Ford says on the ends that you do not use, they say do not put silicone on them. So perhaps that's something that somebody does. But it was interesting to see that in the instructions. They want you to just put a piece of heat shrink over the circuits that are not used. So that's what we'll do. I'm going to carry on this process. I'll show you the finished portion. Now there are going to be some wires that are going to be next to each other. You know, we can stagger them only to a certain degree. I don't want to get right down to the butt end. However, you don't want to make them all, when you're doing a harness this big, you don't want them all right on top of each other, but naturally there might be two that are next to each other on the way up through, you know, pairs of two. But in the end, we're going to cover it up with poly loom, some Super 33, and that's it. So that's what we're going to do. We're chipping away down through here, almost done across the front row. Now these two circuits I'm not using. I just stick the heat shrink on. You know, I cut the wires back. Put the heat shrink on. Start shrinking it down. The hot melt comes right out of it. I don't know who makes their heat shrink. Maybe perhaps if some of you guys know where the stuff that Ford uses. I've always enjoyed it. It's better than the Chrysler stuff. You know, that come with the kits, better than the GM stuff. This, I don't know, it has a lot of adhesive in it. I don't know if that's better or not, but makes you feel better. You see it kind of oozing out the end there. And then we just let that cool. And then we keep calm and carry on. So this is kind of the boring bit of it all, I guess, but necessary. I do find it quite curious how wound up some folks will get over wiring repair. Just to name one of the internet triggers. And rarely, and I should say almost never, do you go on that person's channel and they show you the proper process, which I've always found a little weird, you know, to be a complete expert on the subject, yet have no examples of their work. So I've just always found that a bit curious. Looks good. I've made probably thousands of wire repairs in my life. In all sorts of different conditions and different vehicles and locations and types of harnesses. And the only time I ever had problems was when, oh, this was years ago. This is back when I worked for my dad. We used or actually I bought some, the heat shrink that has the solder, you know, built right into it, the cold solder, where you just, you know, make the wiring repair and then, you know, slide it over, heat it up, it solders and heat shrinks it at the same time. I had, because you guys always ask why I don't use those, and it's because of previous bad experience. I did, you know, dozens and dozens of wire repairs using those. They were great, they look great, they work great, super convenient. You know, especially situations like this, we can just wham bam at one time. And then it was about 2 or 3 years later, I'd start getting some cars back and with issues. And I would check it out and I would trace it down to a bad splice. Look good on the outside, not corroded or split open, but the solder would break. That cold solder joint, they would break and then lose connection or create intermittent connections. And then another one would come back and another one and another one. And to the point where I was getting cars back that had previous wire repairs, and I would just go, I would look on my notes that I saved on, you know, our repair order, and I would just go right for the splice because I could almost guarantee I would get there, go like this, recreate, you know, whatever problem was repaired a couple years prior. So at that point, after fixing, you know, multiple ones of those, I 100% quit using them. I'll never ever try them again. Even if people tell me that they are better or better now, or they don't have problems. Once I get burned by something, I just quit. I've done, you know, crimp and seals as we show. I've done this case here where we do, you know, solder and heat shrink. Never had a problem with either one of those. I'm not opposed to doing either one. I don't really prefer one over the other. I usually let it to be a case-by-case basis depending on where the repair is. Or, you know, for example, like this, if it's a big harness repair, I do like solder and heat shrink because it has a little bit smaller profile when it's all done. When we're taping this up, it's a little bit smaller than you know, a whole bunch of crimp and seal connectors. But at the end of the day, you pick what works for you and move on with life. That's what I say. Move on with your life. Who cares what the next guy does? Don't be a tough guy internet bully. But if you are going to be a tough guy internet bully and tell people that they're wrong and they suck at life, you should probably have an example on your channel so you can say, I noticed that you're doing this wrong. I'm a professional solderer, welder, concrete person, home builder, cotter pin bender. Go on my channel and check it out. That's what I would suggest. But what in the world do I know? And there it is, folks, our last and final splice. I'm gonna shrink this down. I'm gonna go eat some lunch. Imagine we could come back and just loom it and tape it all up, but I think we'll be smart about it and go ahead and plug it in. Now we know prior to this we had no other issues, no lights on, nothing else. I haven't fixed the third brake light yet. I haven't put a bulb in that, but shouldn't have anything to do with this down here. I do see one wire that's hanging down behind me that has a vampire connector on it, a Scotch lock. It's a purple wire, just single wire out of the loom. I'm going to imagine that it is probably for a high mounted collision light. It's backed by the RV connector back here. I think somebody may have had a cap on this truck at some point and then, you know, had tied into that, because it's kind of peculiar how it's just hanging out of the harness. Looks all factory taped. I don't know. Hard to say. I'll probably investigate that just for about a minute. Well, there we are. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cavities not used. Here's our connector that we took off, and that has 5 cavities not used, so that's good. But doing it one wire at a time, I think we're okay. Had this only been, you know, a single wire, you know, maybe 2 or 3 at the most, we would have got just the terminal ends, depinned it, and fixed it that way. But there were just so many wires that were chowdered up. Okay, I'll be right in. Still kind of perplexes. I'm still kind of perplexed as to what happened. Oh, I left that one a little long, didn't I? Right here where you guys can see it. That's right, we give that a little loop-de-doop around. I left 2 of them a little bit on the long side. It happened to be the last ones that I did. So there's that. It's not going to look too bad. It's not going to be too fat. We've staggered our joints good enough where it's not going to be really bulky. But I do have some wire here that we're going to just have to make a twist or 2 around to get that situated. So that's that. That's a big old splice. What do you guys think about that? Kind of sucks having to do it on a 4 or 5 year old truck, whatever this is, 2019, so yeah, 5 years old, but it is what it is. It's a good repair. It's the same repair I would do if it were my own personal vehicle, so that's how I usually like to look at things. I did go get us some poly loom. I keep some few sizes of poly loom around. I don't know if this is going to be big enough. Perhaps not. I don't know if I have any poly loom bigger than this here. I think this is 1/2 inch. Yep, I might have to order a little bit bigger. I'll see if they got some 3/4 inch, because I think this is the biggest I carry here, which I think will be suitable for these wires once we inspect everything. I think there was one of them there I have to make a repair on, so we'll use this here. I'll see if Napa perhaps has something a little bit bigger than this, and maybe we'll get like a, you know, a 2-foot section, so we have a little extra. And then we'll get everything resituated how I think it needs to go. And that's it. Stand by, folks. I went and plugged it in after lunch here and fired the truck up, and it starts and runs. No lights on the dash. I don't know what all runs through this harness besides that network, but everything seems to work. That I don't know what's supposed to work, but we don't have any unusual problems. So there's everything kind of taped up, kind of held in place. So that's what our splice looks like. Should confuse the heck out of the next guy, but we'll do it nice in case somebody has to open this back up in the future. We're gonna tape it up good. all the way to the bottom. I called Napper, had him send us up some 3/4 poly loom, because all I had here was, well, the biggest I had was only 1/2 inch, which we don't use a lot of poly loom. We'll use it to you know, harness repairs, stuff like this if it's necessary, but we don't use it an awful lot. I've got a lot of smaller sizes. Alright, so we'll leave it like that. Take our poly loom or split loom or wiring harness loom, whatever you want to call it. Make up your own name just like we do. We'll get all factory on it. We'll come down to the split. We'll begin our tape around that lightly. And then we tape off down around the end to keep junk from getting in there. Just like that. That's how we typically do it. Trim off the tape, so and then that makes a good end on that. We'll cut it up above the OEM loom. This way here we can split it. We'll be able to bring that up around like that when we finish it. Now this one, I don't believe there was anything wrong with these wires that we noticed. They probably should have been taped in there because I imagine they split. This appears to be factory. They probably split out the loom there. And if this is going to be here, vice versa. So we'll get just tape this up, not that it really matters much, but blend that there. And then I'm going to run a light layer of tape on the outside of this harness. Start up on the factory. Oops. On the factory loom. A couple wraps. Pull it up around our split. Seal it off good up here. We'll start running it down. Right here at the bottom. Alright, that looks pretty good. We'll be able to put that back in those factory zip ties that are up here. They're loops. I'm going to take and trim off the end. Somebody's already cut them, but I think we can reuse. I know a trick old Meemaw taught me for reusing this style here, which I will share with you, which I can share with you right here. Perhaps you can see it. So here's one of the old ones that has been cut. If you just leave it there, you can still stick a regular zip tie through it and utilize that holder, if that makes sense to you. I do have this style zip tie holder with a little Christmas tree on them. However, these ones are kind of unique because the hole on the back part of the frame is about that big. It's a great big hole. The ones I have are only good for, let's say, like a 6 or 8 millimeter size hole. So this wire here has been compromised. This is one I see here that's down to. This way we don't have to go searching for it again. We'll simply cut it. And then I just want to see if any of the other wires have been compromised down to the copper. Something has pinched this harness at this point. But it looks like it's just cosmetic. I think we only spotted one the first time. Well, there's a spot right there. I don't see any copper in it. Yeah, that one looks good. There's a spot right here. It doesn't appear to be split. So I think, well, what do we got here? Is that down to the copper? Yes, that is. Okay, so we have 2 wires here we need to repair. Those 2. We're going to use a crimp and seal connector. And what do we have here? Catch my finger on it pretty good. Yep, I see shiny. I see shiny, and this is where our network wire, this is literally just a loop of wire right here. So we're going to fix that one also. Even though they're not a problem right now, they're gonna be. Even if you tape it up and hide it in the harness and pretend you didn't see it, it's gonna come back and get you. Actually, I'm gonna fix both of them, because whatever nicked this one, might be jumping the gun on that one. Yeah, I think we're just gonna nick that one. All right, get these kind of untwisted here a little bit. And I'm gonna make a wiring repair on these wires here that I've cut. Yeah, this one is definitely down to copper. I just pulled back the insulation on it. So there we have 3 wires here that we need to repair. And like I say, I'm just gonna use crimp and seals. And then I'm gonna get my glasses and verify that what I'm seeing is correct. I'm about my maximum limit that I can see, unless I could hold it up here a little higher. There we are. All right, well, let's get these ran back where we said we were gonna run them. Get a couple zip ties here. I'll show you this when I'm finished with it so I can move the camera over. I'm just gonna guess how they were ran based on, well, based on just my feelings, I guess. And there's our finished product. So I looped into this one, down to this one, attached this to the frame here, that one there, and that one there. So even if any of this did fail, like the the retainer that holds this on, it's not going anywhere. She's all zip tied. Get a little dirt on there, you'll never know. But that's the best I could do. And to answer all the questions, no, I did not put anything inside that connector. No dielectric grease. This connector has networking wires plus other wires on it. They're sensitive circuits. Resist the urge to pack your connectors full of dielectric grease. It's perhaps the worst thing you could do. It's dielectric, it's non-conductive, and when you have really tiny pins like this, it can cause connection issues, and it ends up turning into a disaster. So the connector is clean, the weather pack is perfect. We had no issues with corrosion in the connector. There is no need in this situation to go jamming it full of any type of grease. No Fort Duff. Alright. Ah, shoot, I forgot my door open. Get the mirrors to go back out. That's a handy option, let me tell you. heater back. Didn't have any heat before.
Okay, there's a quarterback run that even goes...
We got the quarterback run going on the AM. No lights on. That'll populate when we drive. Oh, that's right, yeah, we fixed the tire pressure sensors. I guess that's it, folks. Everything seems to work. Windows go up and down now. So that's good. That's gotta be happy. And I hope you guys are gonna be happy. Oh, windshield washer fluid level low, it says. Oh, must still have some in there. But yeah, that's it. It's kind of a shame that the other shop was able to profit, you know, from a misdiagnosis, but what are you gonna do? It kind of sucks those warranty companies don't just kind of stick it with the people who did a bunch of guessing instead of the guy who actually fixes it. Just frustrating to me. I've never had an aftermarket warranty company work out for a customer. Every time we send in a claim, it's always just denied, denied, denied. Oh, they always get denied, to the point where I just tell people it's just gonna get denied. And we've dealt with lots of different aftermarket car companies, and it's just a scam. This guy paid $3,000 for this aftermarket warranty, which he'll never get to use. You know, anyhow, that's it. Go in that comment section, folks. Let us know about your splice repair, what you prefer. Are you a solder, a twist and tape, a wire nut guy, crimp and seal, or a heat shrink cold solder joint kind of guy? It doesn't matter to me what you are. You be you, I'll be me. And while you're looking for me, you can find me on Insta, Facebook, and any questions, comments, or other concerns you have, put them down there. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.